Well, Tina, question? No?
No.
Oh, okay. So I want to take a look at your assignments thus far. Um, so, so that we kind of have a basis, so to speak, of your assignments, of what I look for, what I've been looking for. So let's see here.
When will we know what we got on the assignments, like what score we got?
It should be posted with the comment that
Oh, okay.
should be there. If it's not, let me know because they should have been. I loaded them.
Oh,
So
no, no, I think that might be my mistake because just on Canvas it doesn't have the overall score. I think it just says the score for each assignment.
that's what it should. I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah. Um, but yeah, for everyone, let me know if you don't see it there, and I'll check it and see what's going on. I guess. Let me just share the screen. Oh my God. I don't know what's wrong with the computer. It was fine last night. That's all I can say.
It's okay. My Zoom's having like major problems. It's taking so long to do anything.
I don't, I guess because like the entire world is online. I don't know. Uh, yeah, it doesn't even want to connect to this. Oh, jeez, come on. Hmm. So are you guys just kind of seeing me still?
It says that you're screen sharing, but we can't really see your screen.
I
Ah,
think it's just taking longer to load.
Mm-hmm.
huh. Okay. Can you see can you see a green plant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Um, all right. Well, Tina, you're here, so let's look at your images up here.
Okay.
Um, so, so these are for depth of field, and as you know, the assignment was to make 3 sets of 2 images each, and each set using one of the things that we use to change or affect depth of field. And so here in this first set, it looks as if Tina, you changed the focal length of the lens,
Right.
right? And so we can certainly see some difference. Um, 32 millimeters and then 58 millimeters, and that's not a huge change in the
Mhm.
focal length of the lens, but it's enough to see some change. So here,
So should I reshoot this, but like with the extremes?
I think it's you don't have to reshoot it, but the extremes will definitely show the difference in depth of field
Mhm.
um,
Better.
more, yeah.
Yeah.
So so you have an 18 to 105, and so yeah, you might move back a little bit and then do one image with the 18 millimeter portion of the lens, and then the next with 105 or something closer to that.
Hmm.
Um, what is wrong with this? There, okay. So sorry. So this image here, I've closed it up a bit, was made with the 32 millimeter lens. So that's in the normal, just below the normal range into wide angle. And the aperture is f11, so that's a moderately small aperture, which will usually give greater depth of field.
Hmm.
You can see that the background here is still shallow. Uh,
Yeah.
that's because you're closer to your subject. And
Oh,
so
okay.
being close to the subject gives shallow depth of field. So it's a little bit at odds, not that that's anything you did, it's just that, it kind of counteracts the small aperture and the wider angle lens to a certain extent. This image was made with the slightly longer lens at 58 millimeters with the same aperture. And you can definitely see that the depth of field is more shallow. It
Yeah.
falls off much more quickly. So it's not that you did anything wrong or didn't fulfill the requirements of the assignment. You did, you would see greater depth of field probably with the shorter portion of the lens, and even shallower with the longer.
Okay.
But it's up to you. You don't have to redo that part. I didn't see any real difference. Now, where did?
For the lemons.
Yeah. So
Yeah, for this one, I thought we were just supposed to change the aperture, so I did.
okay, and that's because 14 to 16 is only like a third of a stop, and so
Yeah.
it's not that there won't be any difference, but it will be so subtle
Mm-hmm.
that you can't really see it. So again, especially with the apertures, I would use the extremes. Like uh, f3.5 is the largest aperture your lens goes to. So maybe f3.5, f4, and then f22 or something.
Okay.
Then you'll definitely see a difference in the
Okay. And just the aperture is changing, not like the focal length or anything.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, of course, as you probably know, when you change the size of the aperture, you also need to change the shutter speed to compensate for that change. But if
Right.
you have the camera in the aperture shutter priority mode, then the camera will figure that out for you. Those
Yeah.
equivalent exposures. So yeah. So for that set, I would redo that one.
Okay.
In this set, you changed your distance, and I would change it a little bit more. So you
Okay.
come in pretty close here, and you can definitely see shallower depth of field. And in this one, I would just back up maybe a little bit more. You don't have to. I can see a difference in the depth of field, but you might increase it. But the only set here. Oops. Uh, cancel. The only set here that I would redo is the aperture set. Okay. All right. Okay. Nice job. I like that you came in very close to these. I think filling the frame works nicely. It really pulls us into the frame. So, all right, good job.
So, do I just need to redo the lemons to get 100, or do you think I should just redo all of them?
Well, I will tell you, I rarely give 100s,
Okay.
but yeah, to get an A, I would probably, I certainly redo the lemons, and think
Yeah.
about redoing the others just to get more of a difference. Um,
Okay.
but certainly redoing the lemons would pull you, assuming they show what they're supposed to, into the A- range.
Okay.
At least.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, who else is here? Let's see.
Sorry, could I ask you a question?
Oh, of
I
course.
mean, you can go ahead and look at my images. Just where do I find the score? I tried looking, but I'm not sure if I'm looking in the right spot. I'm kind of new to Canvas.
Uh, I haven't looked at Canvas in that respect from the student's view, so I
So,
I actually don't know. But I
so
would
go to grades.
I did.
grade.
I clicked on grades, and then I even clicked on like assignment 1, for example, but I'm
Uh,
not sure if I can find it.
Are you on your phone or your computer?
Computer.
hmm.
Um, That's
Sorry, I'm
weird.
kind of new to Canvas, so I'm still trying to figure it out.
Like when you go to grades, you should see it's like the assignment and then it says score out of and then the number should be there.
Huh, I'm not seeing that. I just see a dash and then slash 100.
Oh,
That sounds as if it didn't record the grade.
yeah.
So I'll check into that, okay? Um,
Okay.
uh,
I thought it was something I did. I thought I like
I
messed it
don't
up
think
or
so. It
something.
sounds as if it didn't take when I recorded. So I'll check that. But let's take a look at your images now. Where am I not seeing them here? Let's see here. Hmm. Did you submit your images as JPEGs or as a PDF or a Word file? Do you remember?
Oh, I submitted them as a PDF. That might be the
Okay,
problem.
that's
I
no problem. That's just why it's not here showing up in Adobe Lightroom because that
yeah,
yeah that's
yeah,
it's
no, I just the example that you posted of the depth of field assignments, I thought we were supposed to put it in that kind of
oh
format.
I see.
So,
You know what? That was
yeah.
silly on my part.
I did that for
Not
both
that
of
I
the
mean it's
assignments.
fine if you do that. I just yeah I should have thought that of course would kind of indicate that that's
Yeah, no, I just I put the images and then gave an explanation like, okay, so this is like the distance or whatever, and just
right.
yeah.
Okay, why am I not seeing it? Um,
Wait, so in the future, do you want them on a PDF or do you want us to send you the individual photos or
Oh, I see it.
can we put
Sorry.
them on like a PDF with like the measurements for each and like the what we did for each one?
you know, I like to see the settings you used, and it's easiest for all around if you just submit the JPEGs and then I can see the settings. But if you submit as a PDF or as a Word document, that's fine. Just note down the settings you used, and most of you did that. Oh my God, this is so slow.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not you. It's me. It's my computer. It's just having troubles.
At
Uh,
least now I know. So in the future, I will just send you JPEGs.
it's and as I said, it's not even it shouldn't matter at all. It's just in this moment. There's a problem. You know what? Let this load.
Oh,
Uh,
I see it.
oh, there it is. That's so weird. Okay,
It's
great,
just taking a minute.
excellent. I have the spinning beach ball of death, but okay. So aperture was set at f5 and f36, and yeah. So you can. Oh God, stop spinning. Um, you can certainly see that the depth of field with f5 is much shallower, even though it's small here. Much shallower at f5. The background is nicely blurred, and the depth of field is so shallow that the foreground is out of focus as well. Whereas with f36, which is a really small aperture, the depth of field is absolutely great, and it's sharp from the foreground all the way to the background. So yeah, that's great. Come on. Okay. There we go. Go away. So, sorry, a focal length of 75 and a focal length of 300. It's a little more difficult to see the change in depth of field here, not that there isn't one, but because the subject is close to the background, the wall, there isn't as much space going back in the frame, and that's when you really can see the change in the depth of field, in how much space is actually in focus. But excuse me, that said, let me just get us in a little closer here. We can certainly see, if we look carefully, that the background here, the back edge of the bowls and the plastic in this area is out of focus. So there's certainly a change in the depth of field. And the depth of field in the 75 millimeter lens image is certainly much greater, even though 75 millimeters is actually in the telephoto portion of the lengths of lenses. So, you know, when compared with a very short lens, the 75 millimeter lens would give you shallower depth of field. But compared to the 300 millimeter lens, which is very telephoto, the 75 gives much greater depth of field. So, okay, great. And distance from subject, this one, we really can't tell that there's a change in the depth of field because there's nothing between the camera and the wall. Excuse me. So in order to see a change in the depth of field, you have to have something in that space. So if somebody were standing, you know, did a photobomb and pumped up in your image here in front of your camera, but closer to you, then that person, especially in the 1 foot image, that person would be out of focus. If you had focused on the wall, if you focused on that person, then the wall would be out of focus. Presumably with the 20 foot image, if somebody popped in here, it's much more likely that the person would also be in focus. And that, of course, is also dependent on the focal length of your lens and the size of the aperture that you're using. So if you were at like f1.8, which is a really large aperture, then you might still have somewhat shallower depth of field. But if you're at f11 or 16 or 22, then that person would definitely be in focus as well as the background. But again, we can't really see the change in depth of field here because since the space between the camera and the wall is empty, we are not able to see what is or isn't in focus in between. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I have to check my notes of what I gave you for this assignment. I'm going to guess that I probably gave you a B+, like somewhere in the 88 range, with the statement that if you wanted to redo this last set, I would regrade. This last set, I would regrade it because you can't really see that there's a change in the depth of field. So you could even photograph in the same place and just put an object or a person,
My sister.
between, you know, to reshoot that, so we can actually see that the depth of field has changed when you change your distance.
Okay, so I'll definitely reshoot the last set, the middle set of the paper of the bowls and stuff. Would you want me to reshoot that one as well?
No, I think that's fine. It definitely shows a change in, I mean, it's subtle because you have to kind of look for it, but it does show a change in depth of field. If you want to, that's fine, but you know, I can see that you changed the depth of field there. So
Okay, cool. I'll work on that.
all right, cool. Okay, great, good job. So let's see, Nolan and Teddy. Let's see what we have here. Okay, here's Teddy. Okay, so this first set here for, get that out of the way. Okay, sorry. F3.5 and F22, so you can immediately see the change in depth of field with the change of the aperture. So f3.5, of course, being a large aperture, which gives shallow depth of field, and f22 small, which gives great depth of field. Yeah, so quite a difference there. Great. And this set shows a change in depth of field by changing the focal length of the lens. So 18 millimeters, which is wide angle, a short lens, and at f3.5. And then, hang on, there we go. Sorry. And then 55 millimeters at f5.6. So the aperture changed, and that, I believe, is because you changed the focal length of the lens.
Yeah.
And so that's normal. With a zoom lens, zoom lenses have two maximum apertures. The first one, in this case f3.5, is the maximum aperture at the widest or shortest portion of the lens. And then f5.6 is the maximum aperture at the greatest extension, so the longest portion of the lens. And so that's exactly what we're seeing here, since your lens is an 18 to 55. But there's definitely a change in the depth of field. Even when we come in closer, we can see that both the skeleton and the trees are in focus at 18 millimeters, and at 55 millimeters, they definitely are not, even with a slightly larger aperture. So just that change from wide angle into the normal range of lenses, of focal lengths, really makes a difference in the depth of field. Okay, good job on those. And so here we're changing distance. And yeah, we can certainly see there's a change in the depth of field here, especially, if we come in closer and examine the images. Even go greater. And the depth of field is much, much greater when you're further back, when you're away from the subject, as opposed to, come on, closer here. Yeah. How far would you say you were from your subjects?
Probably like a feet or two. Yeah.
A couple feet here, and then maybe
Yeah.
here 8 feet, 10, something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, good job. So we can definitely see the changes in depth of field in each set. And let's see.
Oh,
No.
mine was also on a PDF.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
In there.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. So, what camera we're using, Nolan?
So on this one, I had this like old Canon. I think it's like called a Canon PowerShot. So it's not a DSLR. I
Right.
actually did get DSLR, so that's what my next assignment is filmed using. But so this one, the aperture range is really small. At the
Yeah,
widest point
exactly
for the
right.
lens, at like the shortest length of the lens, it's only from 2.8 to 8.0.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Which still shows, quite a change in the depth of field. So 2.8 is pretty wide. It's wider than most zoom lenses on SLRs. So unless you spend a lot of money for more expensive zoom lens, but the vast majority of the kit lenses that we get with SLRs open to 3.5. So 2.8 is a little bit greater than that, and it definitely, the image made at f2.8 definitely has shallower depth of field than the image made at f8. Yeah. Also, the point and shoot cameras, because they have smaller sensors, also have much shorter lenses in actual millimeters than SLRs in order to give complete coverage of that smaller sensor. And so you'll tend to get much greater depth of field with the small cameras.
Yeah, that was actually something. It was kind of challenging to get kind of like that background blur for with the f2.8 shot, because it was still like pretty sharp even at that low of an aperture.
Right. Yeah, and yep, exactly, and that's why, because those lenses are so short, they're such wide-angle lenses. It is in fact difficult to achieve shallower depth of field with them, even with the aperture wide open. So you did a pretty good job here, considering you did get shallower depth of field, not incredibly, shallow the way one would expect to see with the f2.8 on an SLR, but still you did achieve shallow depth of field, so kudos to you for that. And again, I think coming in close works really nicely, aside from showing the change in depth of field, which is important, but I think that coming in close to this subject matter works really nicely. The colors, they're very even, and you can see the detail of these. I guess I can't tell if they're weeds or they are meant to be, but either way, we can see the beautiful detail, up close, surrounded by the background. So good. Okay, so focal length here, 28 millimeters and 200. A definite change in the depth of field, certainly. You can see in the 28 millimeter image, the foreground is a little bit out of focus. And things that are really close to the lens are very difficult to get in focus. It's just difficult for lenses to focus on things that are very close, even if that's what you're focusing on. You all may have noticed that with your lenses, there's a point beyond which, or closer than which, the lens just won't focus. And the longer the lens, the further back that point is. But you will often get things that are very close to the lens, closer than what you're focusing on, out of focus, even using a short lens and a small aperture and being further away. That said, obviously the 200 millimeter lens image has incredibly shallow depth of field. So your point of focus was kind of just beyond this wiffle ball, I think.
Yeah, it was kind of like that window kind of formed by like the leaf.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And excuse me, you can see that the foreground is completely out of focus, this frond here, and the background as well. We know what's there because we have seen the wider angle image, but if we had not, we wouldn't know why there's this pink area here, or what actually is there beyond the point of focus or in front of it. Excuse me. So you can see that, the long lens really gives incredibly shallow depth of field. And changing your distance and or the focal length of the lens also changes the composition of the image. Changing the aperture, if you don't move or change the focal length of the lens, just changes the depth of field, how much of the image is in focus. but changing distance or the focal length of the lens also changes the actual framing of the image, and you know what you're showing, and of course how you're showing it, depending on the depth of field. So the shallow depth of field image here is as if we have this little window, you know, that we're peering into the area that is in focus. So the out of focus areas actually act kind of like a frame within a frame, pulling us into the areas that are in focus, because we don't like to look at things that are out of focus, you know. And given a choice, as in an image that has areas of focus and blur, our eyes will naturally go to the point of focus, the areas that are in focus. Okay, and distance. So I like your vantage point here, you know, looking straight down. Also getting down on the ground in the last set. I think that was the change in where you were relative to the subjects. Worked well, you know, it made for interesting images. So here, the upper image, we're at 2 feet, and then 8 inches. And were these images also made with that smaller camera? No?
Yeah, this whole assignment was
The
with
whole
that
one,
camera.
okay, right. So I don't know what aperture you used, but certainly at 2 feet, the depth of field is still great. At 8 inches, it is starting to fall off. You can see that way down here, it's not as sharp. Also, this leaf here that you just kind of caught the tip of is certainly out of focus. So it certainly shows a change in the depth of field, even though, again, with that smaller camera, with the very short lens, it's not going to be as shallow. But yeah, good job. You did a really nice job showing the changes in depth of field. Okay, well, excuse me. Since there are only 4 of you here, those are the images of yours that we're going to look at. We don't, since your classmates are not here, we won't go through them right now. But I did want to talk about motion, which of course was the second assignment. And some of you have turned the images in and some have not, that's fine. Before I get going, did you have any questions about the motion assignment?
Has that assignment already been graded?
Part of it. I don't think everyone's grades are in. Are yours not?
Oh,
Is
okay.
your grade is not showing? Because if it's
Yeah,
not
it's
showing
not.
there, it's likely that I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
But let me just check here. Not that one. Not that one. Sorry, you don't need to see all this, right? And not that, and this is it. Okay. Hang on. It's already downloaded. Okay, yeah, the grades are not all in there, definitely. Some of them are. But let me get to these here. Okay. Just look at them this way. Okay, so Tina, these are yours, and let me just bring the information up on the images. So this one made with the shutter speed at why am I not seeing it? I swear each metadata set comes up differently for each camera. So manual exposure time, 1 second. Okay. Yeah, beautiful job. Did you were you hand holding the camera? Did you stabilize it with a
No,
tripod or-
I was hand holding it.
Wow, really? That's amazing.
Yeah. Thank
You
you.
must be a very stable person.
I was trying to be. I was like pressing the button so lightly.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. You did a great job. I mean, it's absolutely sharp, except for the water.
Right.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
And here is the stopping motion image, and there's such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 1/1000th of a second here, and you know, compositionally they are the same, but they are such different images, aren't they?
Right.
You know,
Right.
this one, you know, the one with showing the motion, the water gives it has an almost dreamy cloud-like
Yeah.
effect, you know, and
Mhm.
I find it kind of relaxing, you know,
Yeah.
soothing. And this image, you know, with the roiling water,
Mhm.
is, you know, there's so much more motion and activity, and it,
Yeah.
you know, it conveys something completely different, you
Different.
know?
Right.
And it really, I think, evokes a very different response, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah, same image in terms of the framing, but a completely different effect by changing the shutter speed.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So turning wheel here, I guess, right?
Yeah. I just like put a bicycle upside down.
Uh-huh. Great job. It's, you know, it's almost difficult to tell that it is in motion, except for the inner part of the wheel with the spokes. So you can just see that. So
Mhm.
this is at 1/100th of a second. And then this one at 1/1000th of a second. So I think this is a great example of how the speed of whatever you're photographing uh, really affects the shutter speed that you need to use. So 100th of a second, if you were photographing somebody just walking by, would freeze the motion of that person. Even tossing a ball slowly, or you know, the motion would be frozen. But with this fast moving wheel, 100th of a second is really blurry because the
Yeah.
wheel is moving so quickly. And at a thousandth of a second, you can't really tell that it's moving, right?
Mhm.
Because you've completely frozen the motion. So yeah, great job.
Thank
Uh,
you.
hmm And Annie. All right. So 1/10 of a second. Good. Um, wow, look at the background. That's amazing, isn't it? how blurry that is.
Yeah,
Did you try other shutter speeds as well?
I did. This one took a while, but I think this one I thought it showed it the best.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, with panning, a great job here. With panning, if you use a faster shutter speed, then
Mhm.
then you just stop the motion, right? So you have
Right.
to use a somewhat slower shutter speed
Right.
to blur the background, which you definitely did. And in fact, the tennis racket even is somewhat in motion, but not nearly as much as the background.
Mhm.
What did you do in this one?
So this one, it was just kind of really windy, but I was just trying to like move the camera the same way that the wind was blowing.
Hmm.
So I don't know, to be honest, I just thought the image looked kind of cool.
Definitely. So it looks as if you were moving forward or backwards instead of
Yeah.
across, which is,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's
very
how the wind was
interesting.
blowing.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it gives us this feeling of momentum, of actually being kind of forced forward. Uh,
Mhm.
Kind of like in the movies where the spaceship goes into hyperdrive or something. Um, yeah, it works beautifully. So
Thank
great
you.
job. Great job on all of these. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, let's come on. See if I can get back to where I want to be. Okay. So, Prina, here are yours. You want to tell us about them a little bit?
Um, I mean, okay, well, my mom is very COVID sensitive, so I kind of had to make do with whatever we had around the house.
Sure. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Good.
So, well, I really liked the blur of with the phone light, kind of the where it's like you move your phone light and then you take the picture at a certain like shutter speed. I really enjoy that. So I tried that out and I kind of really liked it. I tried it at two different shutter speeds. Um, the first one, that was like I don't know what it's called, but like on my camera it said 30 and then it had two like apostrophes. That was that one. It was an extremely slow shutter speed. I think it's like
So I think that's 2 seconds
two
with two,
seconds.
like with like almost like a quotation mark after it.
Yeah, so it was like
Yeah.
30 and then the double quotation and it I don't know, it took like at least I would like say 20 to 30 seconds. Yeah, I don't know, it was really, really slow. I'm
Okay.
Oh,
not
Yeah.
sure
I
if
mean
that
that.
I think the double apostrophes is seconds because my camera does the same
Yeah.
thing.
okay, yeah. So the first one was like 30 and then 30 seconds. And then second one, um, the second one, so one I did in the dark, and then the second one I did with the lights on. That one was a bit faster. I think it was like 1/4 of a second. So it was significantly faster, but still quite slow. And
Mhm.
that's what I got. And I turned the lights on just so I could see the actual person.
Right. So you turn them on kind of like during the
Yeah.
exposure or for the duration of the exposure.
No, I turned it on while taking the picture.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was clear. Sorry.
It's an it's almost, I mean, it's the same effect as having used, popped a flash off while you were making this long exposure in the dark. And it allows you to see both the motion and kind of the, freezing the motion of the person. Although I think
Yes.
she was moving so quickly uh, relative to having turned the light on that we're still seeing her motion, but not as much as with the flashlight. Um, Yeah, nice job. Both of them do show motion. Um, they're not, you know, one of them isn't really quite stopping motion, but still, you did a very nice job on those. Let's see these. Interesting.
So the top one, that was the stopping motion for the second set. The water was running, the tap was running in the bathroom, and
Mhm.
that's the stopping motion of it.
Yeah.
It looks like it's kind of frozen in time. The second one was, I had this idea. So my dad was kind of, we were baking or whatever, and my dad was like doing something with the flour, and that was the motion of that. So you can see that
Interesting.
it's
Uh-huh.
clearly, it's going into the bowl
Right.
from like a colander or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like this
Rainfall.
rainfall. Yeah, exactly. Nicely done. And it has a certain ambiguity, you know, especially without the description of not
Oh,
quite
sorry.
knowing. No, it's, I think visually it's really beautiful. It works very nicely, that we're not quite sure what we're seeing coming down, you know. Do you happen to remember an approximate shutter speed for the top one?
I can actually, I could probably tell you. I have, um, I think it was like 1/100th of a second, something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The motion is essentially frozen, which is
Yeah.
so you say here it's showing a blur of motion. It actually looks as if, certainly compared to the other image, you've frozen the motion pretty well. You know, it's not all blurry the way it would be with a slower shutter speed.
I think I accidentally just copy pasted the text because I was using preview to put in the text, and I think I just forgot to change it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All
I just
right.
realized that.
Okay. Yeah, good job on those. And
I struggled a little bit with panning just because I didn't have too many items at home to figure out panning. But what I tried to do was I had tried to have my parents walk in the background,
Mhm.
and then my sister go in the opposite motion, and then my camera only follow my sister while whatever motion she was doing, so that the
Mhm.
background, which was my parents and then the rest of the room, turned out more blurry. So the first one was my sister sitting on her skateboard because why not? She was really bored. And then the second one, my family's really into getting their steps in. So my parents thought this was a genius idea. They get their steps in while I was trying to shoot photos.
All right.
But yeah, and the second one is my sister just walking across the room getting her steps in.
All right. Well, you definitely are showing panning, especially in the in this upper one. In a way, I would like to have seen her sitting on the skateboard, actually.
Oh, okay.
So we, not that it doesn't work like this. We can certainly see that your parents are blurry as they walk, and your sister is not. But I think it might be interesting to see her on this skateboard still, while things behind her appear to be in motion. And why, you know, that she's actually on the skateboard. But in technical terms, they
Oh,
both
okay.
work fine. This one as well, kind of people or figures passing, you know, without actually interacting, which is an interesting effect. In fact, this area here, I don't know if I can do this.
Just crop it to that.
Yeah.
That was, I think, another question I had. Like, sometimes when I like take photos or whatever, sometimes like there are certain parts that I don't like. Are we allowed to crop the pictures, or would you consider that like kind of like cheating in a way?
Well, technically, I like to see the image as you shot it.
Okay.
For yourself, certainly, if the image works better for you cropped, crop it. My hope in this class is that you guys will, if you have the time, do your composing in the camera, so that you don't have to crop or can do a minimum amount of cropping after the fact. We don't always have time to do that, with action photography especially. We often don't have time to say, well, I kind of don't want that little stuffed animal in the corner, but I want that, you know what I mean? So we do our best, but hopefully you will do composing in the camera when you can and not have to crop.
I think this is one of the pictures where I was like, oh, I kind of want to crop it just because I think like that box in the background was a little bit weird, and it was just kind of like an open space, but like I wasn't sure if we were allowed to, so I just submitted it as the original.
Right. Now, do I know, especially when you put it into a PDF document, do I know if you've cropped it? No, I can't tell.
Okay. I can tell you I did
But, I think that this part of the image
Yeah.
is the interesting part, the interaction or non-interaction between your sister in the foreground and your parents in the background, and that you don't need this piece of furniture, whatever it is, right?
What would you say in terms of the sets of pictures would you say I may need to redo?
These ones I really like a lot, but
Maybe change it just because it doesn't fit the assignment.
the thing is, in this situation, you really are not going to, if you freeze the motion, you won't have anything, so to speak, because the image is completely about motion, about the moving light, about the subject moving as well in the lighter image. So I'm at a loss to tell you what to do. I would leave it. I think you're fine. I think that turning the light on was really almost all you could do to even try and stop motion. What would really stop motion in this image is using a flash. While you're doing this in the dark, popping a flash off, which in that second or split second will freeze the motion. So the image would then both show and stop motion. It would show the motion of the light, but would also, because you used the flash, freeze your sister in that instant as well in the same image. So you could do that. But that's all you can do, I would say.
Would you want me to just change the picture altogether so that it's just maybe, like I can still use my sister, but maybe instead of doing the flashlight idea, maybe have her do something else just so that I get a better idea of that set of pictures? Would that work instead?
Sure. You don't have to, but sure. I think that would probably be a better example of both showing and stopping motion of the same object or subject in motion.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I'll just redo that set just because I personally don't also like it.
I think they came out beautifully, however. I think you did a really nice job on them.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice job. And let's see. Nolan and Teddy, just a moment. Tell me if I'm missing it here, because I don't always see it. All right, here's Nolan. Okay. Nolan. Great job. So at a fifth of a second, look at the motion. That's so neat. What happens with the with the socks, especially, and her arms appear to have been lopped off, almost. And then here, a 500th of a second, at a 5.6, and yeah, the motion is absolutely frozen. Come in a little closer here. Yeah, great job. Look what happens to the light. How much it changes by the appearance of it by changing the shutter speed and the aperture. So with the frozen motion, with the fast shutter speed and the large aperture, you also have this beautiful light coming in from the side, illuminating the subject, outlining her on one side. And that effect, although she's in a different place as well, but that kind of goes away in the showing motion image with the slow shutter speed. It just kind of becomes part of the subject. Okay, yeah, very nice job on those. Where were you for this one?
Like there's like a bridge. It's not like an overpass. It's like a 10-minute drive from my house, but there's like a walking bridge over the freeway.
Right.
And so yeah, I just drove down there and then set up like a tripod in the middle of the little bridge.
Great. Yeah, beautiful. I love the little, the vibrations, so to speak.
Oh yeah, like the lane changes that you can kind of see with the lights. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Who had their bright lights on and so on. But it I think gives a sense of where we live and how we live in a way, without showing individuals or, but how many of us, especially in the before time, before we were all sequestered at home, how many of us spend our lives, or such a great part of our lives, on the roads.
The thing I also kind of thought was kind of cool was like, especially like the signs over the freeway and like how they're like frozen with
Yeah.
going past them.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think in many motion images, it really helps to have something that's also something in the image that's still, that acts as an anchor, almost visually, and then also kind of conceptually telling us certain things about where we are, what it is. So yeah, having that stable area, the still area, is really important. It works really well. And the, the carpool lane, right? And here in the same place, with the fast shutter speed, it's such a different image, with the cars frozen. And it also shows how we spend our lives, in this case, it feels as if we're kind of stuck in traffic. But it's a more, I think, static image, the showing the motion here really gives us a sense of the passage of time, of what, of what it is we do, in a different way than the frozen image. Yeah, I think both work, both are successful, both certainly fulfill the assignment. But for me personally, the image that shows the motion has more impact.
Oh, also these ones, I got a new camera for these ones. So this is with the DSLR now.
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, great job. F40, wow. That is small. All right, great on those. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Yeah. The sun flare our lens flare is really interesting. You know, it's almost like some alien invasion or something coming down, you know. Um, so the panning works great at, let's see, 1/25th of a second. So parts of the subject are frozen and then parts are not, which I think is quite interesting. And then you have this thing in the frame. And it balances the frame from side to side really well. But it's also like mysterious. What is it, you know? And he's unaware of it apparently too. So I think that works well as well. Okay, and this one also works really nicely with parts of her in focus, you know, still, and other parts in motion. So good job. Yeah, very nice job on all of these.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well done. And Teddy, do we have your images? Do I have your images?
I believe I sent them in. I might have sent them in separately. Oh yeah, they're right there.
Ah.
Yeah, send them like two.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Got it. And okay. So let's see, this image at 1/20th of a second. Interesting. Let me just there. And this one at 1/1000th of a second. And very different images, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, good job. Go away. Here. Yeah, very, very nicely done. So this one is so definite, you know, so solid compared to this one. He's almost like a wraith or a, you know, something just kind of passing through, which is one of the cool things about photography, you know, being able to show things that we can't see, you know. We can't suddenly change our, you know, our vision to slow-mo, to slow shutter speeds. So the camera allows us to see these things that we can't otherwise see. And that includes freezing motion as well. You know, very, very fast moving objects can be frozen and stopped in time, you know, in this split second. So one of the many amazing things about photography, one of the, you know, many cool things about photography. Okay. A ghostly dog in this case, right?
Yeah, I just had my dog run across.
So again, 1/25th of a second. And yeah, the dog is just kind of this ghost or specter passing through the frame, almost undetected, but not quite.
I had to keep adjusting my aperture and my ISO because like sometimes the photo's too dark or too bright.
So were you in the manual mode? So yeah. So and that's great, but it is true that in situations like this where you're dealing with fast-moving subjects or you know, things are changing quickly, the manual mode kind of forces you to take the time to make adjustments if the lighting situation changes or you want a different effect. You have to change both the aperture and the shutter speed. So using one of the priority modes, the shutter priority or the aperture priority mode, gains you some time because as you change, let's say you're in the shutter priority mode, as you change the shutter speed, the camera automatically adjusts the aperture. It figures out those equivalent exposures for you and sets them so you don't have to worry about that, you know. And that's fine. It's not cheating to use the priority modes. I think using the auto mode, it's not cheating, but then you are kind of denied being able to change these effects on your own, you know, because the camera does everything for you. But the priority modes are really useful in that they do set the exposures for you, you know, so you don't, that's one less thing you have to worry about while you're shooting. So 1/1000th of a second. And here's the thing about cars, photographing cars. When you freeze the motion, they look like stopped cars, you know? And I have a difficult time convincing people who like to photograph cars. And I will say it's often the guys in the class, but not solely. That for stopping motion, cars don't work that well.
Oh yeah.
In some
I
ways.
was kind of
I mean,
unsure about this one.
only because you can't necessarily tell that the object was in motion. Whereas when you photograph something up in the air, you know, or someone in running or a person on a bicycle, it's really obvious that has to have been in motion, you know, and that you froze the motion, which is not necessarily true of a car, unless you figure out other ways of showing it, you know, relative to other things in the frame. So I put that out there. Which is not to say that you didn't stop the motion of this car. I assume that you did. Okay. Okay, good. And let's see your panning images.
Oh yeah, panning was kind of hard, but I guess
Panning can be hard. It took me a while to get it. I'm not even sure why, because once I got it, I kind of got it, you know. But it's not always easy to figure the whole thing out. Okay. Yeah, both work really well. I like that his foot is kind of out, almost like he's trying to stop.
yeah.
And this one works really well. It really gives this sense of this truck, this pickup, just kind of zooming through, you know. In fact, it's almost, I wouldn't say alarming, but it really gives this sense of speed, you know, that I think works beautifully. And I just want to look at the shutter speed, 20th of a second. Yeah, great shot. I love this effect up here. Yeah, great job on these images. And for all of you, you did a really nice job on the motion images. Yeah. So I will post my discussion or description again of the portrait and self-portrait assignment. But do you have any comments or questions or anything else for now?
For the portrait photos, do we need to
Mhm.
like apply like these concepts from these photos to like those portraits? Or just like
Some of the stuff I said probably, you know, the more general, um, the more general things that I said about photography, about motion, that's it's up to you. And if you want to show or stop motion, depending on how you are showing your subject or yourself, you
okay.
know. In terms of depth of field, um, many portrait photographers tend to use shallow depth of field, which is not to say that you have to at all. But many portrait photographers use shallow depth of field to isolate the subject from surrounding information that might kind of distract the viewer's attention from the subject. So this shallow depth of field in general tells you where to look. Uh, it doesn't leave things as open for interpretation in terms of the framing. It directs your eyes or the viewer's eyes to a specific point in the frame. And with portraiture, that is almost always the subject. So again, many you'll see if you go through portraits and the images and the videos that I've posted, you'll see, I think, that many of these portraits use shallow depth of field. And that, again, does not mean that you have to, and I hope that you'll experiment and try different situations, different people, and different effects. Changing the focal length of the lens and seeing how that affects the image, changing the depth of field and seeing how that affects the image and how you or viewers respond to the image. All right. Does that excuse me, kind of answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other questions, comments? Excuse me. Issues? No. Okay. Well, we'll do another Zoom meeting next week. And again, you're not required to come because this class is asynchronous, meaning that we don't have a set meeting time. But if you can come, that would be great. And that will all be posted. And I'll send an email to that effect as well. Okay. Okay, well, thank you for coming and for looking at the images, and hope to see you guys soon. And if you have any questions in the meantime, email me. Okay. Okay, thank you. Take care.
I just had
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
just had one I just had one thing I wanted to ask. Do you want once I submit or resubmit the pictures that I want to redo, will you post the grades after that? Because I was having problems seeing it.
Yeah. I'll check that anyway
Okay,
to
cool.
see uh, why it didn't, if it didn't or what happened there. And at any rate, if I need to, of course, I'll just re-enter the grade. But when I regrade, I'll enter the new grade. And
Okay,
I
that's
think,
cool.
I'm so
Because
sorry.
right now my grade's just saying NA, and it's like the most bizarre thing.
Okay, yeah, I'll see if that's on my end. Um, but when you resubmit, then the grade will change, and I think you get a notification of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Much appreciated.
Absolutely, of course. Okay. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day, and take lots of pictures. And see you soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
take care.
you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.